Meep meep. Welcome back. I'm going to start doing more of these hero previews, especially with Epic 7 content creators dropping like flies here for Genshin Impact. So today we're going to talk about Flan. She was announced yesterday. I'm a little late on recording this video, I usually am. And honestly, I'm a bit underwhelmed, but let's go over her abilities first. So, let's go to the base stats. So she's actually quite fast, and she has a decent amount of base effectiveness. And if you include her imprint concentration, it's going to be very easy to build her with really high effectiveness. Essentially, if you just have an effectiveness ring, you barely need any effectiveness on her other pieces of gear to make her land on most people. And 115 is really high base speed, like the highest in the game is 128. So she's going to be pretty easy to build pretty fast as well. Now let's look at her skills. So first let's look at the animation. The animation itself is pretty cool. I like this scene where like the orb comes out. Looks pretty badass actually. But basically her S3 has a 5-turn cooldown at Max Mola, which is only 1, and it has unhealable and decreased defense for 2 turns on the entire enemy team. Now, to me, that's an extremely underwhelming S3, because there doesn't seem to be anything that special about it. It's not unresistible. It doesn't have a strip. So even though she's fast, you can never bring her by herself, right? Because a lot of people run immunity. It might just get resisted. There's no soul burn or anything to make it ignore effect resistance. And unhealable, while it's a very good debuff, I don't think it's that important to open with it. So, honestly, the S3 doesn't seem that great to me, but that wouldn't be a problem in and of itself if her other skills synergized well with it, but I don't think it does, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. So, her S2 encourages an ally, increasing critical hit damage for 2 turns and increasing combat readiness by 30%. And for a +7 to only give 10% more CR push, I mean, that's an expensive skill to Mola. I suspect that people who do use this hero won't max Mola her for a while. Usually when you have CR push skills, it's like 2 to 3, sometimes even 5% CR boost per Mola. This is like 1 for the first 4. So pretty brutal, actually, in terms of Mola cost. The best thing about this is they're introducing a new buff into the game. There is no hero, as far as I know, that has increased critical hit damage. I don't know if Rin can apply. Is Rin the one that gives random buffs? Maybe she could apply it, but I don't really see, I've never seen this before. So, yeah, I mean, obviously increasing critical hit damage is good, but again, she doesn't give anyone attack buff, so I'm not sure what gives more. I didn't look up the actual buff itself. It probably explains it in this video, but I don't feel like watching it with you guys here. So yeah, basically it's just like if you could stack both attack buff and crit hit damage, I'm sure you'll do insane damage. But it's weird to me that she doesn't give attack buff. The CR push is obviously nice, but again, doesn't have a soul burn or anything. I don't see how it synergizes with her. Oh, I've seen this buff before. I think Rin can give this increased crit damage buff, actually. There you go, there's the example. The animation is pretty underwhelming here, just a little shiny thingy. But let's talk about her S1 finally before we talk about her kit in total. So her S1, let's look at the animation first. Looks actually pretty cool, just she shoots them with a gun, but it's very basic. So she attacks the enemy with a gun with a 50% chance to dispel 1 buff. So 50% isn't really that great, but at Max Mola it'll be 75%. And if you soul burn it, it's a cheap soul burn, it's only 10 souls. It increases effect chance to 100% and dispels 2 buffs from the target. But it's not even, it still doesn't ignore effect resist or anything, so it could get resisted. And Yeah, now that we've discussed all her skills, I know the immediate question people are going to ask is she a must pull? And honestly, my initial impression, guys, is she's absolutely not a must pull. If you're an F2P player and we'll just play the video while I talk, and you're short on bookmarks, I think this is an easy skip actually, because oh, actually, let's talk about her artifact first. Her artifact, after the caster uses a non-attack skill, increases combat readiness by 10 to 20% and acquires 10 souls. This is kind of interesting because to me it's kind of like a ranger Tagahells if you have a ranger that has a non-attack skill. I don't think there's that many of them in the game that do actually, but basically it's a poor man's Tagahells because it's only 10 souls. But I could see this being used in some teams, maybe. Things like Flitica or Cerise can't use it because I don't think they don't have any non-attack skills. So I'm not going to go through all of them right now. I'm not sure what other ranger can use this. But my problem with this hero is you need to bring her with something else. You need to bring her something else because she's going to be useless against any team that has immunity if you don't have a stripper going first. So if you bring her, basically you need to bring a stripper and her plus 2 DPS and something else, like talking about RTA here. If you bring her in something like Guild Wars, it's the same thing. You have to bring a stripper, then her, and only 1 DPS. The closest thing I can have as an analog to Flan is Tywin. And to me, Tywin is much better. Why? Because Tywin can decrease defense. He also has 100% for 2 turns. He doesn't have the unhealable though, but the thing about him is that he can S2 right after. That's why Tywin's such a good cleave initiator, right? He soul burns to S3, applies the decreased defense to the entire enemy team, then S2s, gives your DPS attack buff and a CR push, and then you can cleave. Flan cannot do that. So if you ran her with something like in Guild Wars, for example, like Basar into Flan into a DPS, even with defense break, I mean, granted you have increased critical damage, but you don't really because Basar would go first, you apply the defense break, and then she doesn't have anything to CR push herself after, so she kind of just sits there. Your DPS goes third without an attack buff or a crit damage buff. I think Flan would have been really usable if instead of the soul burn on the S1, which to me is a useless soul burn in most situations, because you're going to want those, like, if you're bringing 4 people, odds are 3 of the other people probably have a better soul burn than hers. Situationally, this might be good if you really need to strip, but in general, other heroes have better soul burns. So it's like if they gave her the soul burn here and said grants an extra turn, she could have been an alternative to Tywin. She could have been very strong. But I mean, maybe I'm missing a situation here where she's really good. I'm trying to think of team comps, but these kind of heroes that don't have enough kit compression, I call it, makes them very wonky to use because you have to line up the heroes so perfectly, and if anything gets banned out, it ruins the whole strategy. Now, in something like Arena Offense, you could probably use her fine, but again, Arena Offense, you could use just about anything fine, so I don't really use that as a barometer for anything. You can just pick random heroes and craft an Arena Offense out of it that works all the way up through Champion for the most part. So anyways, I think that about sums up my opinion on Flan. Like, her artwork's cool, her animations look cool. The only thing special about this is I guess it can't trigger counters or anything because it's not an attack skill, right? It doesn't do any damage. Yeah, it does not hit the enemy, so it doesn't do any damage, doesn't trigger anything like... does it trigger LR Krau's barrier? I don't think so. No, here in this example, it does. Well, they had unbuffable from Basar. But, yeah. Like, Villager didn't even kill anything. But if you look at this example here, look, they started the cleave, but he couldn't even take advantage of the crit damage buff from Flan. He's just using Vivian's attack buff. Like, this is why I think this hero's wonky. By the time you get that crit damage buff up, your first turn is over. Unless you're going to do something stupid like strip Flan does her S3, then Oxlots pushes her up, and then you cleave, but then you don't have the attack buff on your cleaver. Like, again, it doesn't make any sense to me. So, anyways, we'll just wrap it up there. I don't think she's a must-have. I don't even know if she's good. Typically, I say wait and see, but here I can't think of any reason I would want to build her since I already have Tywin built, and I feel like Tywin just works a lot better than she does. Unless I'm missing something, you guys can go ahead and put your team suggestions in the comment section below if you think I'm really missing the mark on this hero, but I straight up don't really understand her role. On the plus side, if she turns out to be real garbage, keep in mind that Smilegate's kind of policy recently has been when you have a bad hero and people complain about it, they get overbuffed. So it's possible that even if she's released and she's garbage, in 3-4 months, we're going to have a patch notice that says balance buff, and then suddenly she becomes god tier. Always a risk you take if you decide to pass a hero. So if you have the bookmarks, my suggestion is just pull on everything just in case. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this preview. Let me know your own thoughts below, and thanks for watching. Till next time, boys, peace out.